The past several years, I have come to love art. Beautiful art fascinates me. I'm amazed by the skill of the artists themselves. Someone can paint a painting or sculpt a sculpture that it looks exactly like the thing that they were trying to depict. And this especially blows me away because I'm not myself an artist. I have trouble drawing lines. And so when someone can do this amazing work of art, it fascinates me. And because I'm a priest, I guess, religious paintings in particular catch my attention. I've several times found myself in a beautiful church or a museum and just have been captivated by paintings that depict the great mysteries of our faith. One year around Christmas time, I was lucky enough to find myself in Paris. And so being there, we made a trip to that wonderful museum, the Louvre. I remember being drawn in by this beautiful painting that depicted the birth of Jesus. Right? Mary is holding Jesus and Joseph is standing there. And I was looking at the expressions on their faces, on Mary and Joseph, and kind of how they were looking at Jesus, maybe what was going through their mind. But my eyes kept being led back to gaze upon Jesus, right, on the infant lying in his mother's arms. And the longer I stood there, the harder I found it to sort of break from gazing at the picture. And when I finally did, I noticed that people were kind of rushing past me, maybe even bumping into me, probably because I was sort of standing in a doorway. They were just kind of blowing right by me. They weren't even taking time to stop and look at this painting. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, because in most museums, but especially this one, there's so much stuff to see. At a certain point, you just kind of want to get out. But this wasn't just any painting. This wasn't just any sculpture or artifact. This was an image that was depicting the birth of Christ. It was showing the fact that God became one of us. And so the longer I stood there, I found myself starting to become excited as I thought about what this image was depicting. And I had to sort of refrain from just grabbing people as they walked by me and saying, do you realize what this means? What is being depicted in this picture? Do you realize what that means for the world? Do you realize what it means for you and for me? I had a great joy that came from the incarnation, and I wanted to share it with everyone who either wanted to know about it or didn't want to know about it. I wanted to share that joy that I had. Today we celebrate this feast of the Epiphany of the Lord. And the Epiphany is the celebration of what we heard in our gospel today, right? The three wise men, the three Magi, coming from the east to do homage, to pay homage to the newborn King of the Jews. And so these three kings that came were Gentiles, right? They were non-Jews. And they were coming to pay homage to the King of the Jews, right? They were not part of the chosen people, but they were coming to see this new little baby Jew. And the word epiphany in our common usage means a sudden realization, right, or a revelation. And for our purposes, it means a divine revelation. Right? The fact that God is now being revealed to us, that He's revealing Himself fully to us in the child Jesus. And so today we celebrate that. We celebrate the fact that God has revealed Himself to us, right? Not just to a small group of people, but to the entire world, to Jews and non-Jews. He's revealed Himself to everyone, to all the nations. And this going out beyond the chosen people is symbolized by the fact that God appears to these three wise men, right? These non-Jews. They came to see Him. And it's also symbolized by the fact that they were led by a star. Right? The fact that they were led by a star shows that even the heavens proclaim the glory of God. right? Nothing is unaffected by the fact that God became man. It shows that all of creation has something to do or is affected by the coming of God to us in the flesh. So what was the response of these wise men, of the Magi, to this event? St. Matthew tells us at the very end of that gospel that we heard that they departed for their country by another way. They went back to where they were from. Maybe their lives didn't change drastically, right? Maybe they didn't stop being kings. Maybe they didn't take off their crowns. But they went back by another way. They went back inwardly changed. Right? Their departing for their country by another way certainly had something to do with the fact that Herod was going to be mad at them and want information from them. Right? There's a real reason or a physical reason maybe why they went back a different way. But it also expresses a great spiritual truth. That a true encounter with the incarnate God, a true encounter with Jesus, cannot leave us unaffected. We can't be unchanged by that. And so we must come away from Christ by a different way. Again, maybe it won't be a huge outward change, right? Maybe you're not going to hear this homily and have a revelation of God and say, oh my goodness, I need to quit my job, or I need to make some drastic change in my life. Maybe for some of you, maybe sitting in this area here, it will be a drastic thing. Right? Maybe when you recognize God revealing himself to you, you're going to recognize a call to the priesthood or a call to the religious life. But no matter what, we're all called to change. We have to go back a different way. And so outwardly, right, our lives may not look very different, but inwardly, everything has to change. Right? A light has appeared to us, and we can't live in the darkness anymore. Everything that we do has to be guided by the light of that star that is symbolizing Christ. So what should our response be to this celebration of the Epiphany? Well, our response has to be the same response of the Magi. As the Christmas season draws to a close, we shouldn't allow ourselves to get out of it unchanged. We have encountered Jesus in a new way at Christmas, and that should affect our lives. And so our response to this incredible mystery of our faith, our response to God becoming one of us, should be the same as that response that I had in that museum. Moved by our realization of the great love that God has for us, the fact that he came to us, we have to depart by a different way. And that different way has to be one of evangelization, right? One of sharing that joy that we have because of our encounter with Christ with others. And if we take time to reflect on what really happened to us, what really happened to our world at that first Christmas, then we should have trouble containing ourselves, right? Not walking out of church and wanting to go and yell and scream and jump for joy, right? God has come to us, and that should affect us. We should have that same reaction that I had in that museum, right? We should not want to go out and not share the joy that we have from our encounter with Christ with others. And so tomorrow we end the Christmas season as we celebrate the baptism of the Lord. And so we should take some time today and tomorrow reflecting on what this Christmas season has meant for us. Right? What has it done for me? Maybe take time as a family around the dinner table or on your ride home, sharing an experience that you had from Christmas. Sharing a grace that God gave you, maybe a new insight that he gave you into this great mystery of the incarnation. Maybe get together with some friends and share that. As I was on a run this afternoon, I was thinking about the fact that I preached this yesterday, and so I should probably do the same thing. I say, well, what was my grace? Man, it came to me. So spend some time in prayer thinking about what that is and share it with someone. In this way, we'll recognize our own little epiphany, right? The way that God has revealed himself to us, how we have seen the light that he is trying to shed on our lives. Because the Epiphany wasn't one thing that happened long ago. The incarnation wasn't one thing that happened long ago. It's something that should happen daily, right? God wants to reveal himself to us every single day if we take time to recognize it. And so by taking time to notice the ways that God is working in our lives and sharing that with others, we become little wise men, maybe little wise women. Right? We become the ones who do Christ homage and then go back by a different way. And we should do this, right? Because we too are not part of the chosen people. Right? We too are not Gentiles. We were once outcast. But Jesus has shown his light to us and brought us into his family. And so we should in turn help others to find him, to see the light of his star. And we should want to share our joy with them. That joy that comes from knowing that our God is called Emmanuel, and that God is always with us.